Welcome to Integrative Lawyers of the World. It's time for a new way of practicing law, a way that honors our interconnectedness, that values what is really important, our core values: generosity, integrity, authenticity. If you agree, you are not alone. There is a global integrative law movement that is transformational, impactful, fun. It's time to grow because the world needs us. So we are interviewing lawyers from around the world who share their experiences as an integrative lawyer. One by one and together, we can and we are making a positive impact. Hi, I'm Carrie Rowley, and our guest this episode is the well-respected, well-loved founder of Collaborative Law, Stu Webb. And in our conversation, Stu talks to us about love consciousness and grokking it in law, in life, inside ourselves. I hope you enjoy this conversation and that you totally grok it. For more conversations with lawyers from around the world, check us out at www.integrativelaw.com. And here's our conversation with Stu.
Not a thinking level. We lawyers tend to think.
Yeah. I would say the feeling level about 40% of the time. I can tell when I'm feeling it and when I'm not. But I would
That's what
say,
we're talking about, and it takes
yeah,
a while. That's beautiful because when you get a little piece of it, there's a practice because we get caught up in our culture,
yeah,
you know, and you in the life you've lived back and doing so much and doing this decision you made to change your life, which is wonderful. Uh, that that was the beginning of this. You get a little tiny little piece of it, and you're getting a piece of it when you're in the group. But when you go out someplace else, you lose it, of course, because our culture is in this, we've lived forever in
yeah.
this separate culture. So it's a practice.
And I guess then the question is how the feeling like
You're in the practice. You're just doing it.
no, I'm like, when do you see it like in the bigger culture of it? So it's not just pockets of people, but you start seeing it more in the way that everyone lives or the way that our leaders live. Like it seems like there's portions of the population that are rising to a higher consciousness, and then it seems like there's portions of the populations that are going down to like a negative level.
when when we think consciousness is generated in our brain, we have duality. In duality, we have love and fear,
Mm.
love and fear, love and fear. And we try to hold the love side of the duality. And you can't hold it on the duality system because just watch the news. Bing,
Yeah.
fear. You know, so when you're in your group, you're experiencing something that's bigger. Consciousness is love.
Yeah.
The big consciousness that's outside of your brain is everywhere. It's like the water that fish swim in. we're just in consciousness. And when we think we're separate in our brains, we close off. and our consciousness, we think we have a limited separate consciousness. What we have is a love consciousness. And that's what the shift is. The shift is from here to from here to And it's this far. It's just that close. So you have experienced that, which is wonderful. Because that's once you've experienced that, you can't avoid it.
Yeah. You seek it. Yeah.
I mean, you're stuck. But the point is, don't think you got it, of where you're trying to teach it to other people. Just learn to be yourself, to be it yourself, and that you are love. And then you love everything in your world, but I don't mean it in a romantic way. I mean it in a
Like in a
feeling, a feeling in a feeling of now. You embed that loving feeling in your body to get it in your heart, but your body getting it outside of your brain. We still need the brain. It's a wonderful thinking tool too,
yeah.
But it's not a thinking tool to think of what the world is all about.
Yeah. It
It's
reminds me.
only kind of things that we've learned.
It reminds me of a Tibetan mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. Like I think Om Mani Padme Hum or Om
Oh,
Mani
yeah.
Padme Hum. That's what like and that was is it compassion and
Mani Padme
wisdom?
Hum.
Yeah.
Mani Padme Hum. 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 That's that probably heard that in Thailand.
I did, and that's what, and it was explained to me as meaning of calling in, or love is is comprised of wisdom and compassion. You can't
That's
have
fine, but
one
it doesn't
without the
mean
other.
you don't have to know what it means.
Yeah.
What like knowing what it means we have to think of you're thinking of it in your brain.
Mm.
All you have to do is just feel it.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting. It's interesting to know what it means. I never can remember what it means, but uh, it's just that I have it my Buddhist peace flags that I have on my wall. Uh, Mani Padme Hum, and learned that Buddhist practice for 20 some years.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but there isn't any one path. There isn't anything. There's millions of ways, and however you are getting it is wonderful because you are getting it. But the point I'm trying to make is don't try to do much on teaching people outside until you get it yourself in a comfortable way. Because that's what the shift is about.
Yeah.
The shift is about individuals getting it, and it's happening. And quantum mechanics is just it operates right now. So if you say yes now, that's quantum mechanics
Yeah.
because
Yes. Now.
quantum mechanics everything happens at the same time, and we use time to spread it out.
Yeah.
So we can see what happened in the past, and we can see what's happening now, and we don't know yet what's happening in the future, but we can have our visions
Mm.
and what we want to have happen.
Yeah.
And the point is that with love consciousness, there are no limiting beliefs. It's all love. It's love beyond this duality. And duality comes from thinking it's in our brain.
Yeah.
Once you get past that, Carrie, you're going to find you don't have worries. You don't have depression. You don't have concerns because you know it. Just like when you're in the group, there's a feeling like you know something.
How do people knowing that? So you know that, or you believe it, but you're still faced with a difficult situation in life, maybe a troubled marriage, or you're not happy, or there's problems, financial problems, or how does knowing that stop you from worrying about what's going on?
All right, I'll show you a good picture of it. Uh, what I'm saying is that in full consciousness, you are an ocean of love. Picture the ocean. You are an ocean of love. Now, in that ocean, you have waves and currents. And those waves and currents are your problems and your issues and your concerns and your worries. They are just merely waves in your ocean. So the mantra that I'm telling you is acknowledge the waves, but stay in the ocean.
Mm, okay, that's nice. That is nice.
And and staying in the ocean, your problems take care of themselves. And we as lawyers have learned to try to solve people's problems
Mm,
and solve our own problems by in the mind.
yeah.
No, you can't get them there. And we're in this duality. So when we're trying to figure it out, we're in the duality. We flash back from good insights. Oh no, but what about this? What about that? We go back and forth. Once you move back, duality goes away. And it's all love feeling. But don't get caught up with the word love thinking. I'm thinking some magical,
Yeah.
romantic kind of thing. It's more like a regard, uh, a good loving feeling, a good like I like I love you.
I see it as the unconditional love, like the unconditional love that just
You got it. You
flows.
got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Now here's the thing: you can't teach it to anybody else.
Mm,
Can't try to get somebody to do it. Uh, you have to, for the most part, you have to label it. You have to model it,
mm,
and you
yeah.
model it just by being love. And when you are love, people are attracted to you. And what we're trying to do in law now with the collaborative, people in collaborative have lost sight of what the second rule. One rule is you get out if it doesn't settle. That's a solid rule.
Yeah.
The other rule is you hold your highest space possible and you don't get down to the energy of the conflicted couple. You hold that higher space, higher possible, whether you're in the big one or whether you're just trying to hold the love side of the duality. You are sending them love. There's a transmission. And so if for example, my model would be having a full team, lawyer, coach, neutral financial, and if a child specialist. So the clients we're not at a meeting. The clients are down in their shit. conflict. You don't get down there. So on the inside, you're holding this higher space, which is we call it the paradigm shift. So if you're not into it, if you're not into it, you can be on the, as best as possible, on the love side of the duality.
Yes.
But you try to get the team to hold that. And that in itself dissolves conflict. But that's on the inside stuff. The outside stuff is the stuff we learn about what to do. We do this, and we do full disclosure, and we respect each other, and blah, 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 blah. We sign this agreement, and we get all the fact, blah, 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 blah. And we have a nice table, and we have pretty flowers, and then we have a picture on the wall, and give them little snacks, and blah, blah, blah. But that's the outside part. But we have tended to lose the idea of the inside part.
And that inside part is shared. How I'm trying to imagine how powerful that inside part when the entire team is holding that space together.
Mind blowing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Blowing, Carrie. Absolutely mind blowing.
And I'm comparing that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Say it again.
I interrupted you, so I said I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I want to be interrupted.
Because I'm comparing that with, we shared in the email that I come from a commercial civil litigation background. To envision litigation where if you said to someone, I want to hold a higher space for the client, like I would do a meditation or I would pray before I went into court saying, please guide me to help my clients for the highest and best purpose, right? And I would share that with other lawyers and they would look at me like, what? Like I'm out there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the training, they don't have the understanding. And that's why we had to do it from a group called Collaborative. Because you're teaching everybody that as a possibility. Now we haven't gotten. We have a tendency, people that have a tendency, like you said, to lose track of the inside.
Yeah.
And they focus on the outside.
And I think how you were saying,
I will send you an essay I wrote when I went to the Collaborative Forum a couple of years ago, and I realized that people weren't getting any more paradigm shift. So I wrote an essay about that, and I will send that to you.
Please do.
And so my preaching with collaborative law is what we just talked about, holding the space. Now, what that is, Carrie, that is the microcosm of what we all should be doing in the world. Holding the highest space possible. And so in the world, when you meet somebody like you met in that civil team that's not getting it, he just said they don't get it. You can give them some compassion, but you can't try to fix them.
Yeah.
You can't say, look, you're not doing it. I spent a lifetime trying to fix other people. And I came so close to losing 40-year friends. I was trying to fix them. They say, look, you son of a bitch, you think you're better than I am.
Yeah.
And I know a lot about consciousness. I don't know anything about building a house or doing plumbing or knitting or quilting or many, many, many other things. I have no idea. The option is it's wonderful that I can be free to learn what I want to learn. I'm a jazz musician. And it took a long time because I'll give you jazz music has two sides. That's what we're talking about here. You ran into the other side when you were doing that litigation. But here in music, outside is I'm reading notes.
Mm.
Music is here. I'm reading the notes. That's outside.
Yeah, yeah.
That's outside me. Inside, if I can do it, is my improvisation.
So,
That's music, making the music from the inside out. And that's our
here,
job as holders of a higher space is we have the inside out and we have to acknowledge the outside. We have to keep, we don't get caught up in airy fairy stuff. We have to remember our social security numbers. We have to not jump in front of a bus. We have to wear a mask if that's a virus is going on. That's kind of stuff, you know. Anyway, that's enough.
There's so much that you said that I have like 4 different questions, and they're 4 unrelated topics, but they're related. So, one, I'm just going to go through them and we can talk about them because it's all
I'm
about.
gonna tell you something.
Yeah.
If you have questions, you're just not getting it.
No.
No, yes. If you have questions, you don't. They say, hey, if you get it, there's no questions.
Oh, but I'm also.
Go ahead, answer your questions.
Okay.
What are your questions?
So part of this is we're having this conversation, and I want to make sure people who are listening to it are understanding and following it and see where it can also go. But part of it is also just for our conversation, and part of it is somewhat I want to say just for me and in our conversation right now. So like when you said, I just really connected with you when you said about playing music versus reading notes, because as a kid, I learned to play piano and I could read the note, and I was aware of this. I could read the notes and play a song, but it was always me playing notes, actually, not a song. Whereas my sister, she could sit down at the piano, and I don't even think like the music that she read, I think I advanced her in terms of skill level of the sheets of music. But when she played a song. She didn't play notes. She played a song because she had the rhythm and I think the feeling that she got through it. And so
she was playing more from the inside.
Yeah. So when you said that, it really resonated that with me. And I think part of me, I was always so striving so hard.
My mother could play anything just sitting down and playing. She couldn't read a note.
Wow.
She couldn't read a note.
That's amazing.
I think amazing. It's just the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
And you ever notice somebody, here's a jazz player playing like crazy. At the same time, he's talking to somebody. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
In the Navy, I went up to the communication shack. The guy who was sending telegraph Morse code, he's sending Morse code and he's talking to somebody in the room.
Wow. Is just doing it
innately, just coming from through. The inside.
Yeah.
And that, my dear, is what happens. It's coming from the inside. At the same time, we have to live on the outside.
Yeah.
Two sides of the same coin. But you are an expert on the outside. So don't worry about the outside. Worry about practicing as much as possible of staying loving in your world.
And this is
not worrying about somebody else's world or not worrying about what's happening in the news.
Yeah.
Everybody in the world has a separate world. And your world is starting to show up even better than it did before, right?
It is.
Because you're changing your view of it. You're creating your world even though you don't know it.
Yeah.
And the more you're loving, the more you're loving, the more it gets better and better and better. gets deeper and deeper and deeper. It never ends. And when you know that consciousness is not centered in your brain, and you don't worry about, if you send it in your brain, you think, oh yeah, diet, that's it. Consciousness is over. No, you're eternal. Outside of the brain, you get that feeling, you're eternal, but you don't know it. I'm not trying to convince you that you're right. Don't worry about that.
No, it's just at the same time, it seems very simple, but very far away. Very simple and very complex at the same time.
It's as close as this. It's as close as changing your mind from thinking your consciousness is inside of you to surrendering that it's outside. And that's you've got a tendency of that from the fact that you've done that. You've done half of that in Catholic, but you just have the wrong buying in all the bullshit about it.
Yeah.
What you really need to turn is just surrender it to love. And there's no illness in consciousness. There's no illness in love consciousness. It all comes from body beliefs. Nothing that, so anyway, I'm giving you a lot of stuff.
Yeah. In your email, you said in the 1970s, you were involuntarily committed to a mental hospital for your manic depressive.
11 times.
11 times.
Yeah.
What did that? So did that help
Because
or
I was
delay
seeking,
your recovery?
I had lost for 2 weeks in my 20s, I was in total loving consciousness. It just came. And I thought I would never, ever lose it. It was just there. And as a teacher, you've heard of Ram Dass. Ram Dass says, if you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your family.
Yeah. It's true.
Well, that's like going from your group to the other, to the outside, And so I lost it. And I couldn't get it back. I didn't know how to do it. It had just come to me. So I had no way of getting it back. I was desperate. I was seeking. And of course, the Miracles says, ego says, seek but don't find. Seek. You can't find it when you seek because you're outside of yourself. Consciousness is so close to you. When you think you're seeking outside. When it's an inside deal. So I got into manic, which means going, pushing. It's like the Coyote cartoon where he runs over out of the shift, runs off the cliff, crash.
Yeah.
And I'm hospitalized. Then I'm 6 months in deep depression. So deep I can hardly move 1 foot ahead of me to get out of bed. Then I go up to another manic. So the whole decade of the 70s was manic depression. 2 weeks of manic, 6 months of depression, back up, and so depressions, manics were tremendously powerful, but so powerful that you destroy all your relationships. It's like taking the chessboard in the middle of a game and wiping it out.
Oh, yeah.
And depression is so painful to yourself that it's unbelievably painful. and you feel like you can't get out of it. And you'd have to, no one can do it for you. And terrible.
Do you?
Well,
Yeah.
what this is I've destroyed my first first marriage, 20, 23 years. Uh, and when I got to my second marriage, I had one more manic. My mother said, one more and I'm out.
Mhm.
So I quit doing that.
So,
And you can't do it. Yeah, it's not doing.
but
It's not doing.
she said that to you though, one more and I'm out. But
Yeah,
then left it to you. I'm
yeah,
not going to force you, but I know my boundaries. So,
exactly right. And
mm,
she's been an Al-Anon for years. And Al-Anon is so wonderful because it teaches them that you're greater than yourself.
mm,
When you go to Al-Anon or AA, it
yeah.
says the first two things is there's something greater than yourself. So there's this wonderful book called Man's Search for Meaning. Guy who wrote this book has spent as he was a Jewish guy in the Holocaust, and he got understanding that there's something much powerful than he was, and he survived the Holocaust, and other people did too because they bought in what he was saying. They got it too,
Mm,
and so he wrote this book, and it's 15 million copies of that book.
wow.
But people read it from their heads.
Yeah.
They say, "Oh, that's a nice book." If sermons did it, if sermons would do fix people, we would be so fixed. That
How
doesn't
do
mean
you,
shit.
how do people move from their thoughts to their feelings? How do
They
they?
don't. They don't. How doesn't do it?
So if
How
someone's
does
coming,
exactly what?
so I guess if someone is listening to this or our conversation and they understand, yeah, I overthink, I think things, and I want to be able to feel them. I want to move out of my thoughts, but I
You know
don't.
what,
But no matter what, I'm still in my thoughts. What do you tell
Sherry?
that?
You know something?
Yeah.
People who are most people who are caught up in thinking that it comes from their brain don't want any help. They don't want to do anything about it. They think there's nothing they can do, and they don't come forth and say, "Help me."
Hmm.
And when you can't help them anyway, but you can. There's all kinds of wonderful, wonderful books. I've got 20 copies of book talking about non-duality is the name of the world. Uh, The non-duality means it's the part beyond the brain. One one thing coming, love, not two, love and
Hmm.
fear.
Do you
So
remember
it's
how
the
you made the shift from the brain to consciousness, the thinking to the
yes,
consciousness?
at the last stages of it, I've been doing it for years, learning because the whole manic thing was tremendous learning. Uh, a very painful way of learning. You don't have to do that.
Hmm.
Uh, but the final pitch was I had a teacher, Rupert Spira, Spira, but he's not like he's always the one. He's the one. No, no, no. He just particular was the one for me. I went to a friend group for a little six person teaching that he had, and I was leaving. He said, somebody in the group said, Rupert Spira. I said, what? Who? Who? And I went home and Googled Rupert Spira, and I took his 30 meditations. Uh, the Light of Pure Reason is set of 30 meditations you can get through Amazon. And I studied those. And he was the one that really brought me through. But it brought me through in a deeper, deeper, deeper understanding than you really have. I've spent since that time, Carrie, learning to the degree I can the quickest ways possible to get from one to the other. And that's the kind of things I'm putting out there, the closest things. And now I've come down to this bottom line. My God, it's that simple. If people stop believing that consciousness comes from their brain and begins to believe, even pretend
Mm.
that it's outside of them, and they feel it in their body, not in their, they don't believe it. They feel it. They feel the love in their body.
Yeah.
And that's the inside part. And you ask your higher consciousness for help. You just ask your higher silently. Your higher consciousness knows everything, but in the duality, the higher consciousness comes up as the negative. It comes up both sides. In the duality, the love comes from consciousness, and the fear comes from your subconscious.
And the what comes from the subconscious?
Subconscious.
I
Your
didn't.
unconscious. Subconscious.
What comes from the subconscious? The recording fear comes from the subconscious.
All the negative stuff.
Okay.
I mean, it probably goes back to the caveman.
Yeah.
You know, when you come out of the cave, you got a saber-toothed tiger you got to deal with.
Yeah, yeah.
You better have a little fear in your life.
That is so funny you mentioned that, because I listened to part of your talk with Virginia yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And so I listened to that yesterday, and today as I'm walking through my apartment, I was thinking through how you were talking about why we need, parts of the brain and the fear part of it, love and fear. And as I'm thinking about it, I remember I'm walking up my stairs. I'm like, yeah, because when we were cavemen having to fight off the wild animals, and now you're saying that right now, like a couple hours later. I just think I always find timing
That's what
like
it's all about.
Yeah.
You're beginning to see more and more synchronicities in your life. Let me tell you a story about 2 years ago. I was having lunches before the pandemic, having lunch with a friend, and I was driving back to our apartment. And our apartment was right across from a Target store, apartments. And I was ready to turn into my apartment. I said, I've got a prescription going. I think I'll turn into Target and get that prescription. Turned into Target, walked in the door. There was my wife sitting in a wheelchair. She had just broken her leg on the stripping in front of the Target store. And I walked in there, and there she, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
And I was then able to take her to the doctor and get the x-ray and start the procedure.
But it wasn't like a normal time for you to go to Target. You just had a
No,
feeling.
I just was arbitrarily. Maybe I could.
Yeah. Just out of the feeling, I'm going to go to Target now. And then you go there and you were able to help
when
your
our
wife.
minds try to make sense out of that,
Yeah. Yeah. No.
And all the synchronicities, we always try to make sense. And whatever happened when you met Rob, that was synchronous, but we always make some reason for that, why that happened.
Yeah.
Out ahead, our lawyers always try to figure it out, and we want to help figure things out. So it's a letting go. And when you do that, when you get sensitive to it, you start listening more. It's not a voice, it's just a light thought, maybe.
Yeah.
You like that? I'll just get my prescription. You know, and I'm in the car anyway. Don't have. I just walk a half a block, but I'll go ahead and get.
Yeah. That is, I love those moments like that. And it does, I
Yeah.
mean, then that just connects you back into that feeling of there's something that connects us all, that the
And the other
consciousness.
thing is, for the most part, we don't understand. We just listen through our heads. That's where if you read that other YouTube that I did, I said so important the word grok. Did you? I don't know if you read the YouTube one, but
I
you should
listen.
read that one. The very first 15 minutes of it,
Okay.
I talk about grokking.
Rocking.
I don't want you to just listen. I don't want you to just listen to this like a sermon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want you to grok it. And grokking it means I understand from a whole body situation. I get it. And so at that particular situation, I said, somebody said, well, see if anybody's got any questions. I said, if you have any questions, you didn't get it. It's okay. It's okay not to get it because you've been not getting it for thousands of years. It's okay to go back and forth and have love and fear, have that kind of drama in your life. It's okay if you want to do that, but it's so painful. Why not be in love? Why not be in love and have everything in your world be wonderful? Oh my God, you can't believe. I
Yeah.
have no depression, no worries, nothing like that. The only concern I have, I would just love it if everybody would get it.
I would love
I
it if
can't
everybody
make people
got it.
get it. I have to just calm down and send them love. And I can do something like this with a particular person who is half in it anyway, like you are, where a part of you can hear this. And the other part, mind is, the monkey mind is working too.
It is. I do.
I understand that completely. I do not want to be a guru. That this is something everybody can get.
Yeah.
And so the simpler it is, the more sharing it is. And I'm all right with that, but my task, you might call it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this time and this space with me today. There were several, you know how we're talking about synchronicities before? There were several things in the conversation that were just, there was synchronicity with what I was thinking earlier in the day, or things that I was puzzled about, that this conversation helped me like see the pieces of the puzzle a little bit better of things that I was working on. So
I'm delighted to talk to people that way because that's what love is all about.